with award-winning actress and celebrated activist Debra Messing for our and introducing our, and get ready, let me introduce you a little bit. Debra will take over to the person she wants us all to know.
Shelly Tygielski.
After holding executive positions in corporate America for 20 years, Shelly Tygielski says she was miserable in her career and even her faith had lost meaning. She was going through a divorce, and she says she needed a radical change. Shelly planned on following her lifelong passion, mindfulness and meditation. Then one day, everything went dark. Shelly's vision was suddenly gone. She was diagnosed with an inflammatory eye disease that can cause blindness. Fearing she would never see her son's face again, Shelly refused to let it stop her. In 2016, Shelly organized the largest mass meditation with a national sporting franchise and became a pioneer in meditation teaching, drawing thousands of people each year to her events. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, Shelly had a simple idea: to show up for others and encourage others to do the same. She posted online looking for people who needed help and also those who could offer help. The next morning, Shelly woke up to hundreds of requests and matched those in need with people who could help them. The grassroots organization, Pandemic of Love, was born and has helped roughly 2 million families to date. And when Will and Grace star and activist Debra Messing experienced Shelly's work firsthand, she was inspired to join forces to spread the word that showing up for others and achieving radical self-care is easier than you would think.
Welcome Shelly Tygielski to the show. Debra is still with us, and now I'm about to cry. Shelly, you know, that line about showing up for others is so powerful. But when you get a call from someone like Debra Messing who says, I want to join this movement too, how did that feel?
It's surreal, actually. You are in this moment where suddenly people that you have, looked up to for a long time, or you sort of don't really view them as anything more than a celebrity, right? You're like, oh, is this person really a human being? I think we have this construct. And to actually be able to connect with somebody that has so much heart and spirit and is actually an incredibly inspiring human being that has shown up not just for me, but for thousands of other people, has just added a lot of fuel to my work and inspired me to do more.
It's remarkable what you created at the time that you created it, because in the pandemic, let's face it, everybody was thinking about their own families, their health, the health of their children and their loved ones, which was okay. Being selfish in a moment like that is okay. But at some point, we recognized, getting the vaccine was for others. Wearing the mask was for others. And if I have anything extra or anything around the house, clothing that my kids don't use or food, I can give it to someone else. I don't have to hoard to live. And you tapped into that.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm a 20-plus year meditator, and the practice that I work on is cultivating compassion, really like opening up my heart center. It's a practice called metta, which means loving kindness. And basically what it does is it helps to, move us from that evolutionary notion that we have to default into fight, flight, or freeze mode when we're afraid of something, right? So we're not operating from a place of fear, but rather we can recognize that we're in this like fear construct, which I was very afraid when the pandemic happened, not just for my family, but obviously for the people that were in my community that I care about. And then we can just like pause for a moment and say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. But now, how do I move into empathy and action mode? How do I open my heart? How do I ask the question, what am I going to do about this thing that is causing me great fear or angst or, causing other people a lot of suffering? And how do I come from a place of love? And so that's really how I just had this like eureka moment to use mutual aid as a construct. It's not something that I invented. Mutual aid has been around for hundreds of years. And to just make it more, I would say, automated, right? Use technology as a powerful force to be able to create connections at a time of disconnection.
You know, Deborah, in the book that Shelly wrote, Sit Down to Rise Up, How Radical Self-Care Can Change the World. Listen, that's a friend. When your friend holds your book up beside their face, then you've got a supporter. Deborah, when you think about self-care and that we see it as a radical notion, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? You've been around and you've been so good at sharing your ups and downs in this business, your ups and downs as a woman, but that self-care is radical thinking. What does that say about us?
Well, that's something I had to learn from Shelly. You know, for so long, I had this limited idea of what self-care was. And even what meditation was. It was something out of reach for me. I tried and tried and tried, and I couldn't do it. And we talked about this. I was like, it's 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. I can't do it. And she's like, you could do it for 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
I relate to what you're saying. When I first tried meditating, I literally, like, the grocery list came in my mind. I saw floating lettuce. Oh, God, I got to get lettuce. You know, it's like I could not, everything but meditating on myself entered my mind. Shelly, do you consider yourself a meditation expert? Like, I know you're an author and a philanthropist, but do you consider yourself a meditation expert?
I think that you can be a lifelong meditator and not be an expert at it. It's really the pursuit. I'm an expert on myself. The pursuit of meditation is to familiarize yourself with the darkest corners of your mind. And so I think in that light, I'm an expert on reading myself, right? And reading my emotions and regulating my emotions at this point.
And those are things that you've learned that you can share with others so we can unpack those deep spaces and places in our own mind. So you have something called, and I had to look at it double take, and I don't have my glasses today, but it's a technique called chunking.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound fun. Chunking. What is chunking?
Well, okay, so like many people, overwhelm is one of my main triggers. And you're looking right now at an actual piece of my notebook that from over 15 years ago, when I started to, as a single mom at that time, sit down and list all of the things that I had to accomplish the next day. And I know that many of us live and die by to-do lists. And when we start to actually look at all the empty check boxes, it can just get us to freeze and feel like we can't do it. And so I found that, first of all, my stress was significantly alleviated simply by just writing the steps down in the first place. And then I looked at the list as a whole and I realized, wait a minute, I can actually group a lot of these different tasks together and really align them to my purpose, which at the time, my overall purpose in life was to be a presence and provider for my son, Liam, right? So I started to group together in categories like health and emotional well-being and finances and relationships. So to give you an example from the list, right? I would basically ask myself, what is the right next move for me in this moment as it relates to my purpose? So in the finance chunk, when you look at things like paying bills or consolidating credit cards or shopping around for car insurance, those types of things are just boring. And they are things that you kind of will say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah. It doesn't need to be done today. But I actually always thought of those things as seemingly unrelated things on the list. And instead, I incorporated them all into sort of one chunk. Okay, finances. I've got to get my finances together as it relates to my purpose of being a presence and provider for my son.
Because if you get all of that taken care of, the bills, the insurance, then you're present for your son and you're not having all this swirl through your mind.
Right. But it's more aligned even with my goals, right? Okay. It's aligned with my goals, being able to really kind of frame it as all of these little things, all these little tasks that seem like nuisances and annoyances on a daily basis are actually all leading up to my goal. So it's sort of like a rock climber summits a mountain, right? Okay. They don't look at the summit to begin with. They actually look first to different segments. Okay. They look at each manageable climb that they have to do each day in order to get to the peak.
Got it. Okay, so we make our list, we put our goal at the top, being mindful with our families. And then you put your list of things that will get you to that goal. That's like not delaying paying the credit card bill. Call, I don't know, the plumber to finally get that thing done that's been bugging you. And look at each of those things, not as a task or a to-do list, but a step toward your goal.
Right. If you can correlate all of the things together and put them in boxes, in sort of these segments or sections, right? Things that are really all in our self-care plans that we have to formalize, which are emotional well-beings, relationships, career, finance, physical health, being a parent. And if you can just put them all into those neat little boxes, as opposed to looking at them as individual tasks, suddenly you can really feel like you're moving towards your overall goal and the intentions that you want to live by.
You've touched a lot of people on the front cover. President Joe Biden said you are saving people's lives and giving them hope, and you're keeping great company in Debra Messing. So, Debra, thank you for introducing us to Shelly. We owe you.
Thank you, Debra.